talks, but how we always start is just through kind of coming into our body, a little bit of meditation. So I can assume that many of you are seated. You might be making lunch or working around the house, but if you can join us in this quick meditation or the office, I would just invite everyone to join us in this meditation for financial abundance. So if everyone wants to find a comfortable seat, feel free to turn your screen off or whatever you need to do. Place your palms face down on top of your thighs. Think about sitting tall here, maybe lift in your heart center. We're going to focus in on our heart today to guide us in that financial abundance meditation. So just maybe relax shoulders away from the ears, close eyes, and take a moment here to drop into your breath. Notice the natural rise and fall of your inhale and exhale, and bring yourself into this present space, taking a moment to let go of anything else that has happened to you earlier today, or maybe earlier this week, and really allowing yourself to be mindful in this moment about how you feel, how you are. When we talk about bringing abundance into our lives, so much of that is rooted around what we actually want. So setting intentions and thinking about our lives in a bigger and brighter way. Yet one of the best things that we can do here is finding a connection to that heart space, to really sit in your heart and recognize what would suit you best in your life today. So as you ground your sit bones down, sitting with eyes closed and focusing on that breath, bring your attention right to the center of your heart. The heart chakra, Anahata chakra, is the color green. So it's helpful. If it's helpful, you might imagine a bright green light right at the center of your heart. Rest in that space for a moment here. Focusing on your breath, thinking about your life right now, what you do on a daily basis, maybe the people you surround yourself with, your work or your family or friends. Think about what you have right in this moment. And then take the opportunity to think about what you might want to bring into your life. And this can be anything at all, of course. But try to be specific. So think about what intentions you would like to manifest, to bring in. And with your eyes closed, use your visualization skills to really picture your life exactly the way you want to have it. Take a minute here to really experience that. And if you notice that your mind wanders somewhere else, no judgment, just come back to this specific visualization, this intention of bringing abundance into your life. So let's try that together for a moment. Keeping eyes closed and attention on the breath, hold this intention in the forefront of your mind and place one hand over your heart center. Feel the breath expanding, the inhalation up into the center of your heart. And feel the softening through the center of your shoulders, the face, the belly, and exhale. Hold this intention with you. Breathe it into your body. See if you can really see it clearly. Maybe expanding that intention a little bit wider now. Gently place your hand back onto your thigh and take a breath. Allowing yourself to come back into this present moment. And let it go. see if you can think of a few sentences or a word maybe that comes to mind as you come back into this present moment. Maybe flutter the eyes open. Inhale, exhale, let everything go. Open your eyes and join us. So hopefully that will just allow you to come into this space and place and set an intention for what you want. Maybe a question popped into your brain, or you could jot down what your sentence or words were. But Liza's going to lead us through some questions, and then we'll end again with some more visualizations, maybe in those breakout rooms. But yeah, off to you, Liza. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Haley. On a day like today where the market's very crazy, those meditations really help. So I appreciate it. Yeah, everyone, I know a lot of you, I moved to Jackson about February of 2008 after spending most of my career in Boston and New York working in the financial industry. And my story is kind of funny because I actually asked for my first share of stock when I was 12 for my birthday, which I have no idea why. I mean, it wasn't, my dad used to read the Wall Street Journal and I'd look at the columns, I'd be like, what's this all about? And I like numbers. So that was pretty funny. And then of course later I ended up getting, it was my first job at college in the business, and I've been there kind of ever since. And one of the things that, you know, I wanted to try to do today is just something we do a little bit in the startup intensive, but I've changed it a little bit. And if you could, I'd love to just have everyone sort of take a pen and a paper, and we're not going to have a lot of time for this, so you can always just go back to it later. But we can also talk about some of this stuff together in the breakout rooms if you want. But if you could just sort of close your eye, or you don't have to close your eyes, but just think about sort of, you know, what are the messages that you've got from your father about money? And just jot down whatever comes to mind. And everyone kind of got some thoughts down. And like I said, you can spend more time on this later, but now just shift over to your mom. Like, what were the messages that you got from her about money? And then the third question will be, you know, what is the message you get from your spouse? Assuming most of us are, you know, or if most of us are moms, then your partner or whatever you want to call it, about money. And then the last question I'd want you to think about is, how well do you communicate with your spouse about money? And what's your role sort of in the family financial, not necessarily making it, but just sort of in knowing what's going on, from I have no idea, my spouse does everything, to, I do everything, he has no idea, to we both know everything that's going on. Everybody, they've got my answers jotted down. And one of the reasons that I bring this up is because, it's really important to think about, when you think about your financial, your comfort with your financial future and your financial picture and your handle on things, and, what you learn from your parents is really, has a huge influence. And in retrospect, since we're all moms, how we think about money is going to have a huge influence on how our kids deal with money, And so it's something that I think we all, as moms, want to be more mindful of, because if you think about the patterns, then you can decide if you like the pattern that you're passing down to your children, or maybe you want some shifts in that pattern, and I don't know if anyone wants to, share here or share in breakout rooms, but some of the answers to these questions, like what were the messages, that your dad gave you about money? Does anyone want to share?
I'll share.
All right. Thanks, Liz.
Break the ice.
Awesome.
So my parents were very different. My dad kind of preached, don't trust government institutions, don't trust the Federal Reserve, don't save. He got sick when I was young, and he basically couldn't work for a while. And so he kind of adopted this philosophy of like, work hard and then spend. And my mom worked for a government agency, good pension, etc. And her message was, get a good job, get a government job. It'll protect you in a way. And so completely opposite. But now my mom is essentially like taking care of my dad in a way, because she worked for the same government agency for 35 years. So very different. And then my husband came from kind of meager background, and he is all about security. He's all about save, 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 invest, invest, invest. And I've always kind of let him do the bulk of things. And it has been a huge, a huge thing in our relationship, because I'm kind of like, I don't, whatever, and he's like, I don't really respect you in this relationship if you don't know what's going on. So I've tried to take more of a active role the past 2 years, but I have to say there's some sort of a mental block with me. I'm just like, I don't get it. I have money invested in a 401k, and I like to see it grow, but I'm not saving all year so I can max it out, etc. And I just can't seem to get over that. It's like a stumbling block. So that's my story.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And as as we think about this, the sort of how you want to move forward in our breakout groups, we'll talk about that. And also just sort of what are the message we want our kids to take, but thank you for sharing. Anyone else? even just part of the questions, just maybe just what your mom taught you, what your dad taught you, or what you took away, right? Because you could have 3 siblings and you could all have taken away different things, but.
Yeah, I can share.
Thank you.
Sorry?
I said, thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah. My dad kind of, he taught me that you can always pull it off and that you'll have just enough. Like, we would never have more than other people, but we would always be able to pull it off if something happened, or that we would always be taken care of. And then my mom took that to the extreme and kind of had this entitled, I feel bad talking about my mom this way, but if she was kind of entitled to be taken care of. So I have to be careful of that as well. Yeah. And I took this class called the Millionaire Next Door, the Millionaire Mind. Have you guys ever heard of that? And they had us go through this and to realize that my dad would always tell us we'd have just enough, kind of set my thermostat at always having just enough in my bank account. So I need to max that out like your 401k.
Thanks, Natalie. Anyone else? So it's fascinating, isn't it? Like how different everybody is. Kirsten put I don't know if everyone can see that in chat, but I'll read it out loud. My parents had and still have contradictory messaging around spending. My mom is the saver and my dad is the spender. I've noticed how much their emphasis has evolved into protecting their money so they can pass it down to children and grandchildren. And yeah, we do evolve, and and part of the evolving comes from this sort of more, if you will, mindful thinking about behind how do we get to where we are and thinking about money, you know? And so anyone else want to share?
I can say a couple things. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. So my message from both my parents who were divorced was there wasn't ever enough. Don't, be really careful spending it. Like, I feel like I got the message, and I don't know if this is actually a message that they were giving me, but don't even hover open the refrigerator because it's energy we then have to pay for. My parents were divorced, so there was fighting. Rach, tell your mom, your dad that he owes me money. So I have this really skewed bad relationship with money, and I never feel like I can spend it. I don't feel like we ever have enough. And I'm passing this down to my kids. And I mean, Jackson, there's a variety of means here, and there are some who are extremely wealthy, and my kids see that. But they go to the place where they say they're poor, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. So obviously I am passing on. I'm not doing it well. It's not healthy. I don't have a healthy relationship, and that's so I had no idea what I was coming into with this talk, but knowing that I just think it's great that you started with this.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's just fascinating how everyone comes from a different place. And, the more we think about how we got there, the more we can decide if that's how we want to move forward or not, and how we can go about going, you know what, why am I holding on to that? Because it's really not real, as Rachel's sort of saying for her and her kids, like, it's really not real. So why am I holding on to it? And then, thinking about how you can move forward if you want to, or how you can change the message for the next generation. So that being said, that's kind of my little mindfulness piece about it. And now I wanted to be a little more practical because, a lot of you guys might have questions. And some of the questions that I have a bunch that are very typical if, nobody has any, or if you want me to start. But if you have any, I'd be more than happy to start with your questions, and they can be anything across the board. So
I have a question, Liza.
yeah, Amy. Hey, how are you?
Hi, good, thanks. Good to see you. Thanks for
Good to
doing
see you.
this. So my parents have recently passed in the past 6 months, and
I'm sorry.
Thank you. We're one of 6, and so my parents are splitting up the inheritance in their will between siblings, spouses, and all the grandkids. So I was just wondering what my communication should be with my children. I have a 17 and a 12-year-old. They're not getting a lot of money. I think it's $25,000 each. But they've been asking, and I've been kind of like downplaying it. And I just want to know what you would advise on how that should.
Oh, and that's so fascinating. It's really interesting. I mean, I have a lot of clients who, their kids get their trust at 18. And then I have clients who don't tell their kids about it until they're 30 or, older. And some of them tell them about it, but they don't have access to it, or they have access to it, but it's restricted. So maybe it's just for education, or just for buying your first home, or just for, and I think that it's a combination of, how well you communicate with your kids about money. Like I have one family, and they feel they have really great relationship with their kids and a really great conversation open about money. And they've given their kids access at a quite early, but they've done it. I mean, they're still trustees, but they've done it with the awareness that we're going to talk about it every year. We're going to meet with Liza every year. We're going to do this together. And if you need the money or some of the money, then come to us and talk about what you need it for. Sometimes people will take it in, the spirit of their, like your mom and dad, what would they have wanted, and then you can pass that down to the kids and say, my grandma and grandpa really wanted this to be part of your college education, or really would have valued seeing you have your first home, so if you want to put restrictions like that, or at least guidance around it, then that's one way to think about it. I generally, my personal feelings on it is if it were my daughter, I would not want her to know that she had a lump sum coming to her until she was older. Because I've seen a lot of people, just friends and people I know, who really did have that lump sum coming to them. And probably it was because they didn't have a great conversation around it in their family, but they just never found their passion in life because they never had to. And now most of these were bigger chunks of money. But, that being said, I do have clients that are the opposite of that. But again, it's people who really have had good conversations among their family. Does that help at all?
Yes, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Anyone have anything to add to that from a personal experience, or you can, ping Amy offline if you do. Any other questions? They're burning for anyone? See, this stuff is actually fun for me. So bring them on. Or if you want, I can just bring up some that, I get questions about all the time. So.
Hey, Liza, I'll ask a question.
All right. Who is this? Sorry,
No worries. This is Renee.
Oh, hey, Renee. How are you? Sorry, you were on page 2 of my screen.
Oh, I'm good. Thank you. This is going to be, I suppose, make me transparent as to how poor my investing and budgeting skills are. which is funny because I have to run a budget for a whole organization in my job. But for my personal finances, I find that, having had a few jobs throughout my career, different jobs, I find that when I make more money, I just spend more money. And of course, that's probably a reflection of the fact that I've never written myself a budget. But I'm wondering, like, is that really the kind of the key thing I need to do to sort of stop this kind of bad habit? Really, I'd rather just live within a certain set of means and then invest my money for my future and retirement someday. So I don't know if I put enough of a question in that, but it's almost like a psychological thing, I think.
Well, I think like anything, it's like, in our lives, we make goals, right? And if you don't make goals around your financial stuff, then, what path are you following? So I think that budgeting really helps, because then you know exactly what you make every month, exactly what you spend every month, and exactly what the difference is, and then you can decide if the difference is $1,000 a month, let's just say, between what you make and what you spend, then you can decide, all right, here it is, it's $1,000 a month. Now, what do I want to do with that extra money? Do I want to put it in my 401k? Do I want to pay off my car loan? Do I want to save it in my savings account? Like, what do I want to do with it? But if you don't budget, even on a really basic level, you just don't know, And so in budgeting, I mean, literally it would take every one of us, and we could do this if you want sometime in a group, but it would take less than it could take you 10 minutes to really do your budget, in a quick and dirty way. And so if it's the mind block from some of us that keep us from doing it, then just sort of making yourself go through that exercise would be incredibly helpful and enlightening, And a lot of my clients, they bring me a budget so that they can show me where they are and where they might be able to eke out more savings if that's what they want to do, Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. I think I knew the answer when I asked the question, but yeah, that totally helps. And I am thrilled to hear you say that it could just take 10 minutes to put the budget together.
Yeah, I mean, you think of everything coming in and everything going out. So it's like, okay, my salary, let's just say most people, the top line is your salary, right? And that's what's coming in. And maybe it's your salary with your spouse. And then it's, okay, expenses, rent, groceries, gas, travel, meals and entertainment, car loans, any student loan debt or debt you're paying on. I mean, there aren't that many things, right? So don't make it more difficult than it is, because there's always, you can put a little miscellaneous in there for the little things, right? But the big things, and if you don't know, they should be on your bank statement or on your credit card statement every month, right? So how much goes into my HSA, how much goes to my retirement, whatever that is, like, that's why it should take 10 minutes, because I just did it. And you should, if you don't know, I think what's also really helpful for people is, I know, setting 15 minutes the beginning of every month to open all your statements, open your bank statement, open your credit card statement, open, if you have a financial, like a savings or a financial account, open them, look at them, If you do that every month, and then you can be more mindful of, wow, I have an extra 1,000 in my bank account, or I have an extra 20,000 in my bank account. What should I do with it? And you'll notice things when you do that. I mean, I had a client, who the other day who came in and, he was paying $10 a month per bank account to get a paper statement. I was like, why are you doing this? But if you don't look, you don't know. So the minute we took that off, and that's $120 a year per bank account that he was and he doesn't make a ton of money. He just didn't notice because he doesn't open them, you know?
And
Does
I'll just add that whether it's monthly or weekly or daily, that you come face to face with these finances, and the more often that we do it, the less kind of intense it might make one feel if we have some of those negative beliefs or values or feelings as it relates to that. I'm reading or listening to The Art of Money, Barry Tesler, but some of her tips go around like doing that simple body scan, which we did at the beginning, the meditation, and just noticing or setting an intention, or maybe where you're feeling it in your body. When you spend one time a month opening up these statements and looking at it, is our heart racing? Are we flushed? You know, and then just start to notice how our body reacts. First key is awareness, right?
Let's see, there's we got some questions in our, what are the red, oh, there was a question from someone not in attendance about saving for kids' college and retirement. What are the tools available and which do you recommend? And how much should we ideally put away for college savings and retirement each year? She read somewhere around 15 to 17%, but she said that feels like a lot. And the answer to that question is really, every situation is very different for people. And I would say that if you're not putting away for your own retirement first, then that's not a great idea, because the kids' financial aid will not take into as much account your retirement plan as it will their financial any money that they've saved for themselves or you've saved for them in a college plan. And so I know a lot of people are putting away for their kids, but not putting away for themselves. And one, you get the tax benefit of putting away for yourself, but two, you have to take care of yourself, so your kids aren't taking care of you. So I really advise people a college saving plan is great. It's great in some ways. The problem with it is if your kids end up not going to college. If you have more than one kid, then you can swap it between kids. But let's say your kid becomes, an Olympic ski racer, and they decide not to go to school. Well, that money can't be used for anything but education. And so, there are certain tricky things about that. And you might say, well, education is a huge priority in my family. I know they're going to go. And I have family members who want to contribute, then a college plan might be a great idea because it can encourage others to add to that over time. But I would say, if you're carrying credit card debt at 22% and you're trying to put away for your kids' college, but you're carrying the debt, you have to sort of think about the cost of money and, taking care of some of your own financial future first before putting away for the kids' college is something to think about. And then if you're someone who tends to spend when it's in the bank account, then maybe that's another reason why you want to do it, so it doesn't get spent, but there's lots of different, there's no right answer, put it that way.
Is that 15 to 17% that she mentioned in there like a good guidepost or guideline? I've never heard of that, so I don't know. Is that 15% for retirement and 15% for college saving, or?
Well, but what does that mean? Because if you're making 30,000 and someone else is making 150,000, like that just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, and especially I don't even know where that number comes from. So, you can only put away a certain amount in your retirement plan. If you're putting away in an IRA and you're under 40, you can put 6,000. If you're over 50, you can put 7,000. So, your max there, your 401k or simple plan, if you have one, has maxes too. So, that 15 to 17% doesn't really make sense to me. but I would say, you know, it's very individual too, depending on, you know, I know some people that are putting away for the kids, but they still have some, you know, they have some school debt that they're paying on. And to me, it's like, wait, you're paying 6% on this debt to put away money, but you haven't taken care of, you know, some things for yourself yet. So it's an individual, you know, I don't know that there's a right answer, but I would say from the perspective of I always like when people have extra cash, they come to me and they say, well, I have an extra, you know, 30,000 in the bank, or I have an extra 100,000 or whatever. What should I do with it? You know? And I always start with prioritizing the most expensive money you have out there. So for example, credit card debt is almost always the most expensive, right? And so if your credit card debt is 20%, then that's sort of the top of the list to pay off. And then let's say you had, you know, your car loan at 6%, maybe your mortgage at 4%, or your student loans at 4%. You know, you sort of list all your debts to see what's the most expensive money I have out there, you know. And then, you know, I like to prioritize things that have tax advantages to them, like a retirement plan or a health savings account, because that every dollar you make, every dollar you put away, you're getting a tax advantage from them. So that's sort of, and in the case of a 401k, you're getting a match. So it's sort of free money, right? So that's something I would really prioritize, again, over a college saving plan. Does that make sense? Which college saving has, you know, it grows tax-free, but there's no tax advantage in Wyoming to putting into one for your kid. So, so I don't know, does that help, or is it got too detailed, or? Let me see, there's a few more questions in chat here. It says, I can't unmute myself as I'm full of preschoolers outside of the classroom at the moment. Could you provide some intelligence on how much investing and saving should be done for someone who is in their late 30s to be in a healthy place in 20, 30, 40 years? I have a 401k, but that is it. No saving plan and lack of good budgeting skills. Learn from my parents. My current focus is getting rid of debt. I don't think I am setting myself up for success. Again, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to generalize that question, because I don't know without seeing your budget what the wiggle room is, right? So my first advice would be to make that big basic budget. So, you know, do I have more coming in every month than it's going out? And then let's say, you know, you make 40K a year, and you know, between rent and all the other expenses, you have, you know, you spend 30K a year on things that you have to spend on, right? So that leaves an extra 10K. Then we want to prioritize that. And then I go back to that issue of lining up all your cost, your cost of money, which is your debts. So car loan, student loan, credit card loan, mortgage, anything like that, any money that's costing you money, you know, any things that are costing you to hold on to, and I prioritize them. And then I advise, before I put into savings, if I've got 20% credit card debt, but I'm trying to save in the bank and it's paying me almost zero, then that's sort of what we call a negative carry on our money, right? Like you're saving at a lower rate than you're paying on your debt. So I always I have people prioritize their debts and the cost of their debt, but that also means you have to go in and know. I mean, a lot of people, and this is where our, you know, looking at our statements every month really helps, because you can say, well, I don't know how much I'm paying on my mortgage. It's somewhere around this. I don't know how much I'm paying on my student loans. Well, part of the awareness is knowing, right? So know that your credit card debt, your car loan, what the rates are on them. So one, you could potentially negotiate them, but 2, you can decide how to prioritize what to do with cash coming in. And it also, you know, I always say it's paying off very expensive debt. And then when you get to sort of you get down to the mortgage and you're like, you know, I've refied my mortgage and I'm at 3.5, which is, you know, a really, really awesome long-term rate for your mortgage. But then you can decide, well, 3.5 is a risk-free return if I pay that down. But, you know, the market does 7 to 9% returns over the long term. So maybe I'd rather put some of that in the market. But, you know, it's a different decision for everybody because everybody has a different decision about debt. I mean, some of you probably said from your parents, you know, I got the message, never, ever have debt. Whatever I do, don't have debt. You know, a lot of parents, especially, you know, in the generation that came through, you know, the Great Depression or whatever, had that no debt mentality, you know. And that's another thing to look at, because if the cost of your debt is very low, then maybe it's okay to say, you know what, I would like to put a little more into my retirement account, you know, because the way a retirement account works, for those of you who need a little refresher, is let's say you make $50,000 a year and you put 6,000 into an IRA. So you put 6,000 away, and instead of paying taxes on the full 50,000, if you put it into a regular IRA, you're paying taxes on 44,000. Does that make sense? So you're getting taxed. So depending on what tax bracket you're in, let's say in that tax rate, you're probably in somewhere around the 20% tax bracket. You're saving about $1,200 a year in taxes by doing that. So in that case, I would say definitely don't pay down your mortgage with the 3%. Definitely put it into your retirement account so that you can get the tax advantage of it and the growth from now until you retire. Did I get over anyone's head there? So let's see. So again, you know, I think what I would generally advise is get that budget done, even the basic budget, and, you know, figure out how much excess there is and then prioritize what you want to do with it. And then create some goals around it. You know, if you sit there and you say, I'm making an extra, you know, there's 10K that's sort of unspoken for right now, then make some goals around it. I want to put $100 away every month, 100 extra that I didn't put away last year, you know. I want to have X in my, you know, IRA by the time I'm 32. I don't know what, you know, whatever your, because that's how you're going, and you may not meet your goals, but at least you have them and you can try. And then when you open up your bank accounts that you set aside in your calendar 15 minutes, beginning of the month, to open everything up and take a look around, you can sort of track how you're doing against your goals, you know? And, you know, I always find it really hilarious how much time people will spend on, for example, you know, we work so hard for, you know, what we earn. And yet I know people that would spend hours and hours trying to figure out which refrigerator to buy, right? But they don't spend even 10 minutes a month on their entire financial picture. So I think people don't spend enough time, you know, they work so hard, but they don't spend enough time thinking about taking care of it, you know? And if we do that small shift, it can change things. Let's see. Let me look at some of these questions. Let's see. It says, what are the benefits of hiring a financial advisor? What should one look for in a financial advisor? I think the answer there is, you know, with a depending, and it depends on which financial advisor, and it depends how comfortable you feel doing this on your own. If you don't feel comfortable doing it on your own, then a financial advisor is the best place to turn, because they're going to help you get started, and they're going to help you feel comfortable about the decisions they're making. And that's what they do for a living. So hopefully they're good at it, and they can, you know, look at your budget and say, hey, here's what's missing. You know, I noticed that you don't have an HSA. Why not? And, you know, this is going to save you X on taxes. You know, I think the other advantage of a financial advisor is helping get families on the same page, because when clients come to me and I say, would you like to bring your spouse to this meeting? And sometimes they say, we don't really talk about these things. Could you help us do that? And so it's a way to help get people on the same page, because you can come to a meeting together. Another reason would be that, you know, this stuff's pretty complicated. And so tax laws change, and the amounts you can put away in your 401k change, and, you know, having someone help you be on top of that can be very helpful. You know, I think what I would really look out for in terms of hiring a financial advisor is make sure you talk to more than one person, so that you can understand the differences between them, and make sure you get someone who's recommended, and make sure you really understand the fees that you're paying to that advisor, that they're very transparent about it. And I would also try to make sure that that advisor is a fiduciary, which means they have your interests in mind ahead of their own by law. So like your accountant, like your lawyer, a fiduciary has to put your needs ahead of their own. So those are, you know, from a basic, for a quick thing, that's what I would make sure I would pay attention to. Starting really basic, suggestions for how you even begin to have the conversation and learning about your finances for those of us who have fallen in the pattern of letting our spouse take care of all the financial stuff. Really good question. And I think that there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and it depends, because, you know, these patterns are set, right? And they feel uncomfortable sometimes to change the pattern. I mean, I think the number two things that couples argue about is money, right? And sort of financial stuff. So some people may feel it's more of a delicate conversation than others, but, you know, for example, you can use something like this to say, you know what, I went through this, you know, seminar today for Mindfulness for Mamas. And at the end, we went into breakout groups, and we each decided something we were going to do in the next month. That was an action plan we could take. And my action plan is to start to understand our family finances a little better. Could you help me do that? You know, another way is sort of, you know, depending on your relationship with your spouse over money, is to, you know, bring it up in a way that you know, that says, I'm feeling uncomfortable because I'm feeling like I don't have any control, and I don't have any awareness. And it's something I really want to learn about, because if something were to ever happen to you, I need to take care of the kids, and I need to have some, you know, skills in this area. Could you help me? You know, so that's another way to think about it. I'm more than happy to brainstorm if, you know, I don't know, maybe any of you have ideas for that in terms of how you broach the conversation with your spouse. And if not, if those two don't seem to work, I'd be more than happy to talk about it offline. Just ping me. Let me look at this chat.
Well, hey, Liza, why don't we do a quick breakout and we'll kind of, you can pose that question. I'll send us into breakout rooms and then we can come back if anybody has any other burning questions. Liza could
Oh,
be the
sorry,
last
we've gone
one.
over time, but
No,
yeah,
you're
that would be great.
fine. This is great.
What
We
I would
kind
like
of-
you guys to think about in your breakouts though is sort of one, you can discuss this relationship with money, but what I like action plans, because with an action plan, then you can, leave here with something sort of tangible. So, I think what I would love people discussing is, hold on, what did I learn and what's something I can do over the next month that's going to be a first step in a new direction. And it looks like we're down to, Haley, it looks like we're down to 8 people. So I don't know if we just want this to be the breakout or you want to drop into 2. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you guys tell me. Keep together?
I'd rather keep together.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start. I've had an action plan for about 2 years, and I'm coming close to achieving that goal with the help of Liza and a catalyst such as a divorce in my life. So, there are certain things when you have to focus on this or you just want to, or they might be a goal. But yeah, I'd set a goal probably December 31st, 2018 to consolidate my 401k. And yeah, that happened like last week. So we did it and it's great. And Liza's certainly helping with that. But even just to like figure out where your money is and then maybe to move it into one spot. I know now I can log in and I have an app on my phone and I linked my Wells Fargo account so I can send the excess money that was just doing nothing in my savings account over to perform a little bit better for me. And yeah, love all of Liza's tools like pay off your credit card debt, because I was that person that had the credit card debt and then the savings account not doing anything. So things are canceling one another out. But yeah, so my action plan would just be to continue that, oxygen mask coming, into the awareness of this is my future. So thanks, Liza. You're amazing.
Thank you. And, I think Haley will tell you, it feels powerful. Like you get a lot of confidence by knowing and having some control. And I've seen in Haley that has definitely happened, it's just more comfortable with knowing where she's going. And so it's good. Would you agree, Haley?
Yes, I've definitely always felt like that, level of independence as it relates to money, even like when a parent, say, passed away. I think this question came up earlier, and you might have a small inheritance, 25 grand or whatever that is. You have this kind of weight or, this little chunk of change that you're like, oh, I feel a little bit lighter. But yeah, just really mindfully, coming to terms with some of that past trauma and grief as it relates to your spending or your negative belief around money. And yeah, thank you guys so much. If anybody does want to stay on the call or get more information, obviously Liza has a great website. Feel free to reach out. I can pass any information along, but thank you so much for hanging
Nice
with
to
us
see
during
you
your lunch
all.
hour.
Hopefully it was helpful.
so
Hope you take away at least one thing that, and yeah, it was great to be part of it all. Makes me think as well. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liza.
Thank you, Liza. That was awesome.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.